The American public saw the first 10 Democratic primary candidates head-to-head last night. What topics heated up the debate? What is the de Blasio effect? How are the night 2 candidates prepping? All that's coming up.
All right, Team Rising is here. Estuardo Rodriguez, and a Democratic strategist and principal at the Raven Group. Henry Rodgers is Capitol Hill reporter at the Daily Caller. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here's like a little fun fact about this group that we got going on.
Yes.
You two used to work together in
That's
a previous life, and the two of us used to work together in a previous life.
Yeah.
This is like the reunion show.
Right. And it's the reunion bro show, which I
Yes, exactly.
Let's start
Real
with
world, but no women.
Let's start with immigration, Estuardo. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Julian Castro had a real breakout moment last night. He challenged all the candidates on the stage in order to pledge that they would decriminalize crossing the border, something I've been talking a lot about here today. Do you think that was too far left?
Well, I want to start by saying I don't know how any of you understood it. It was all in Spanish, the debates. Right?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Luckily, I'm from Texas. I come from Texas, and I was
picked up a couple
and I
words?
was like, "You're not saying that right. Like that's not very good." Yeah, like.
I just want to say we do not have it, but we should have the meme of Cory Booker looking at Beto O'Rourke.
I know.
That's right.
When he started speaking Spanish.
I saw a great tweet last night, which is like Joe Biden hurriedly buying Rosetta Stone, trying to figure out like.
Cory Booker was like, "Gay?"
Yeah.
No, I think the Spanish aside, which I'm sure we could have another conversation about as well. But no, I think he's speaking to a very technical issue, which has been debated for some time on the Hill. What we've seen is a comprehensive immigration reform has been going on. Discussions have been going on for 15, 20 years now.
Yeah.
But pulling the dreamers out of it helped under the Obama administration. Something that the Latino organizations and leadership have not wanted to do for many years is piecemeal immigration reform. But this is another one that if you don't address what Julian Castro was talking about, then you're treating everyone the same. The distinction that Beto was making was, I'm talking about asylum seekers, and Julian was saying, I'm talking about everyone that's coming who's just trying to find a better way of life, and you can't treat them like criminals. I think Beto made a mistake by saying you're talking about one small segment, when in fact it's one small segment of the legislation, but it impacts hundreds of thousands of families.
That's an important point.
So does that mean that we should allow everybody into this country and that we should just have open borders and have everyone who doesn't even want to claim asylum come in?
Well, that's how I heard it.
This is the legislation that Liz Warren and Castro basically have signed on to, which is basically
it's how you treat them when they come over is the
That's
issue.
That's
because you still can screen everybody. It's whether it's criminal versus civil. The civil violation can be treated a specific way that still allows those people crossing the border to have certain human rights. Once it's criminal, then they're in cages and they're denied and they're divided.
Well, wait. Here's one thing. Here's one thing I thought was interesting. Even the New York
Republicans
Times
should at least make the cages comfortable.
So the New York Times headline out of this was, and this is a front page of the New York Times: Democrats split on how far left to nudge the nation. And I thought that was, for the Times to have that as the main takeaway, Estuardo, I thought that was really an indication of where the base of the party is. In terms of setting the tone for tonight, how do you think that that's going to play out, particularly on this immigration issue? Because Joe Biden does not agree with Julian Castro.
I think, I think most people are excited about tonight simply because it's the top of the top, right? The challenge yesterday was the majority of the candidates got no more than 8 to 10 minutes, tops. What's going to happen tonight with these top 10 between Biden and Bernie? They're going to fight for even more time and the opportunity to stand out. Whether or not they're going to go off in Spanish, I don't think that matters. What's going to matter is whether or not they really resonate with a younger, if we want to talk about that generational difference, a younger audience who can still see that Biden and Bernie are energetic enough to fight for immigration reform and climate change, which also didn't get much time on the stage, and bring new ideas. Because if it's the old school Biden, I don't think we're going to go anywhere.
Well, Henry, let me ask you a question. Are you guys worried the Democrats may actually find a candidate who can excite their base and still appeal to the middle? That maybe what the Democrats are up to is getting so much energy out of the Democratic Party that it becomes infectious to moderate voters because it's so popular.
I think it's a good question. You're going to see that probably pick up as the debates go on and the primaries happen and it becomes a candidate. I think Trump's, though, his energy and his base is just it's so massive and it's hard to beat that I can't see someone else on stage with Trump, with the energy he has, who could compete with him on a level like that. I know that the voter turnout will be massive. I know that Democrats are going to show up to the polls this season, this election cycle. But I do not believe that they're going to actually like the person they're voting for.
What's interesting about that, Henry, is that the Trump base is a people that have never been spoken to before. Right. For 25 years have literally been neglected by both parties. And I'm not sure, actually, does that exist in a leftist coalition? There are people within the coalition who feel like Obama, he was too centrist, he didn't go far. But it's not like at least they were paid lip service. At least they were brought into the White House and brought into the coalition. What is the aggrieved level, I guess, within the Democratic Party? Is it just that they hate
offended do you need to be?
No, but I mean,
how insulted.
That is why people
Have you seen the Bernie Sanders rally?
Yeah, I have. But a lot of those people there's a huge crossover with Trump.
Can we start with the fact that this country has not had over 50% of Americans vote?
True.
In how many elections, if ever? This is embarrassing.
Terrible.
The leader of the free world. Our nation is the leader of democracy, but India and other democracies clearly have greater voter turnout than we do. So the untapped and aggrieved are out there. Right, and we're going to see them come out because this, as I get older, I get tired of saying it, but this time I really mean it. This is an election like we've never seen before.
It's true.
Absolutely.
This one I agree.
You have people insulted, offended, mixed status families. You've got an array of people who, like you said, have not been talked to before and feel like this is their last great white hope, and they feel energized to come out.
And I'll say Obama turned out voters that Democrats hadn't really been talking to before when he ran the first time. And there was a huge surge of voters. I think Trump did the same thing in his first election. The re-election is tougher, though, because it's not about the promise, it's about what you delivered and what you've done. The question is, can Trump hold on to the entire coalition that he brought out in 2008?
I mean,
2016.
We are like about a year out, I guess, a little more than that from the election, and you see these lines for his rallies. I mean, his base is there, and if not, they're growing. His base is growing, in my opinion, regardless of what he's done, what he hasn't done. They're there. So I think they're going to continue to show up to these rallies. I think they're going to continue to support the president.
But
I think these numbers are going to continue to rise.
There are also these people who are like, they didn't like Hillary. They were mad at the system. They still hadn't gotten their housing value back after the collapse. And they just sort of were sticking their middle finger up at the system. Are those people still going to go for the Trump show?
It all depends on who the Democrats nominate.
Double guns.
But to this point, and you talked about this, about climate change, because I do want to get there, which is, I think the majority of the candidates on that stage last night said climate change is the biggest threat to the United States. I bet if you were to ask in a Republican debate, every one of them would say some version of China or maybe a nuclear war or global, Islamic terrorism. So is this type of apocalyptic language? Do you think that that's helpful for the Democratic base?
Well, there's a balancing act there because climate change is real. and it was funny that yesterday they were in Miami, and who knows in a few presidential election cycles whether or not they're going to be able to do that in Miami. And so there are states that are really feeling it. Whether or not anyone feels that it's too apocalyptic or not, I think it's an issue that Democrats are trying to find a comfortable way to talk about it, to say that this is a bipartisan issue to address. The other issues, immigration reform, the economy and healthcare, I think those pieces are going to ultimately be the pieces that mobilize the base. Because there are people that are on the Democratic side who understand that there are the haves who are getting a lot more and the have-nots who continue to get less and less. And that division, I think, is part of that energy that Elizabeth Warren's tapping into. That there's a base out there that simply is completely getting cut out.
I thought it was interesting. I saw in the opening statements, everyone was talking about the biggest threats to the country, the world, what could possibly happen, what they would like to fix. But I think it was only like 3 or 4 candidates actually said that climate change was one of the big issues that they would focus on.
But then when you ask them the threat, the majority said that.
But then the threat, and that happened. So clearly Democrats believe that the world is going to end. We don't know. We don't know how long that is. We've heard from obviously different members, 12 years, 15 years. maybe 10 years.
I was actually
Well,
wondering.
I don't know.
I did wonder.
But if the question is 12 years or 25 years, don't you think we should do something about it?
Well, I don't think it's either of those.
Let's say it's 50 years. Okay, let's say it's 50 years.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear.
I'm thinking it's way out.
Let's- I think
Listen, here's where you're different. I'll let you get in here, Estuardo. Where you're different than every other CEO. When you look even at energy companies, people are putting in their reports to shareholders that they're concerned about climate change and they've got to do something about it. The entire economic sector gets it. Why don't the politicians get it?
The issue for me is that we like to paint this picture of, oh, the Democrats are saying the world's going to end. I think what they're trying to say is the world's going to end as we know it. That comfortable way that we kind of run around from one. I have people coming in from all over the country to D.C. and they always talk about, it won't stop raining over here. I haven't seen a sunny day. The weather's hotter. We just had floods. It's constant now, and people are starting to see it. But it's not that it's going to end and goodbye, it goes dark.
Right.
It's not The Sopranos. It doesn't. It's actually as we know it. It's going to be done.
It's going to raise my dad's property value in Detroit because that fresh lake water on the lake is going to be huge.
All right, what about the de Blasio effect? I actually enjoyed this, which was Bill de Blasio did his real New Yorker thing. He butted in. He was kind of mean, to a few people, but he got himself some screen time, and it might have actually worked. So the question is how is that going to work for tonight's debate? Because we have a couple candidates up there like Michael Bennett. Yeah, I mean, should they act like New Yorkers? That's the real question. John Hickenlooper, Eric Swalwell, Kristen Gillibrand, who is herself a New Yorker. Does adopting the de Blasio-like style, do you think that's going to help them tonight?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think, look, one of the challenges the Democratic Party has is that with 20-some candidates out there, you know that 99% of them are all going to lose. Maybe someone gets the runner-up, right? Otherwise, you've got to not. Unlike what happened in 2016, you don't want to tear apart the other candidates. You need to make sure that the party wins. Yeah. And so I think there's going to be an elbowing, making sure that someone gets that opportunity to say, I'm different than you and you and you. But overall, I don't think it's going to help them to go head-to-head in an ugly way as we would see in another
I thought it was, I think, very effective. I think that the Democrats, in order to make themselves, well-known and put themselves ahead of the other candidates, need to do things like this. I think Mayor de Blasio, by making himself, powerful and forceful and calling out some of these people on the issues that they were talking about and, trying to give his opinion, I think that was a powerful move on his part. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that tonight.
It was interesting because de Blasio was able to pull it off, but not John Delaney. He kept trying, and it was, I don't know why exactly.
He's not from New York, maybe.
Maybe. He's just like, well, wait a minute now, wait a minute.
There is something going on. I got so much pushback when I said something nice about de Blasio, specifically from women on Facebook and Twitter who said, no, he didn't do well. He was bad and boorish, and he muscled everybody around. They hated the style of it. I wonder if
but that's the only thing we're talking about as it relates to de Blasio.
It got him on the map. It got him on the map.
Which is why I'm saying, what's the ultimate win there?
All right, so final
in the
predictions.
Trump theory of the world, just being talked about matters.
It's true. Earned media, that's what he calls it. The most revealing thing, this is a tangent, but the most revealing thing he ever did, someone was like, hey, thank you so much for taking questions all this time. He goes, it's called earned media. It's worth billions. He gets it.
Let me educate you a little bit.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So you can see that if you go look at our the Hill TV interview.
Yeah, you can see our interview. You can see right into his state of mind. Okay, so final predictions from both of you. Who do you think is going to have a breakout moment from tonight?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Pete Buttigieg. I think Buttigieg is going to come out and probably speak 8 languages, and
he needs to have an eloquent response to this police shooting in his own.
He's extremely articulate. He can get a lot of issues, I think, done. Or he can articulate these issues very well. And that are hard issues, tough policy issues to get out to younger folks.
Well, let's see. He doesn't actually say very much whenever he's
so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I do think that he might be the breakout candidate, and it will possibly rise his poll numbers.
What do you think?
I honestly, I think it's going to be tough for a lot of these candidates to distinguish themselves. I think people that do have a challenge are going to be women like Gillibrand. Yeah. There's 3 women on the stage tonight. how they distinguish themselves, not just from the 3 women from last night, but from all of the candidates. I think that's really what we're going to be looking for to see where they stand out.
Because it's interesting. You just said there are 3 women on the stage. You brought up Gillibrand. We've been talking about this all day. A name nobody has mentioned, Kamala Harris.
Fair point. Who's polling quite high.
What has happened to Kamala Harris? She was kind of a boom, and then it feels like
she
it's just
huge open in Oakland, and then it just dropped off the face of the earth.
We've got 24 candidates. This is impossible.
I know,
but I agree.
But you didn't mention her name. We haven't mentioned her name.
Yes.
Like the fact that she's not like top of the mind, tip of the tongue says that there's something not happening. I'm just wondering what it is. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's what we're gonna focus on tonight and see if she's listening to you. She's gonna have a pop out moment tonight.
All right, thanks guys. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for being here. All right, coming up, what we thought was missing from the debate night 1.
And Congress left the Capitol Rotunda for the baseball diamond. Special surprise that involves Attorney General Bill Barr. It'll be music to your ears, literally. That when Rising continues.